Now that we've talked about how to approach the production possibility frontier if you have that straight line from the consistent and constant marginal cost, now let's look at how to apply that. Now, the first thing we need to talk about is this idea of absolute versus comparative advantage. Now, what that is saying is there's different ways to approach how one person is better at another at doing something. If you have an absolute advantage, it means that you can produce more of something. Just means that if one person can produce more hamburgers in an hour than another, that person has a absolute advantage. Comparative advantage, however, looks at what it costs. And so with comparative advantage, it's about who can do something at a lower cost, who can give up less in order to do something. So let's look at an example of that. So here we're looking at an example of two bakers. We have Mary and we have Jen. Now they both own separate shops. They produce both brownies and cookies. For the time being, we're going to take prices out of the picture. So Mary and Jen, they have their production possibilities. Mary can produce either 3 brownies in an hour, and let's assume this is a dozen, or 1 cookie in an hour, or 1 dozen cookies in an hour. Jen can do 4 in an hour or 4 in an hour. Now let's look at a 5-hour day. So when we look at Mary's production possibilities frontier, if she can do 3 in an hour and there's 5 hours, she can make 15 in a day. And 1 in an hour, 5 hours, 5. And we do the same for Jen. Now we can also put together the slopes of their production possibility frontiers for Mary, -3, for Jen, -1. Now we are also assuming that currently Mary is making 3 brownies and 4 cookies in a day, while Jen is doing 10 and 10. So in total, they're currently making 13 dozen brownie and 14 dozen cookies. So they get together and say, look, let's see what we can do. Let's try to work something out here. So they come together, and the first thing we look at is who has the absolute advantage? Who can produce more? Well, if you look at this, for brownies, for example, Mary can make 15 in a day as a maximum. Jen can make 20. And so Jen has the absolute advantage in making cookies. Well, what about brownies? In a day, Mary can make 5. Jen can make 20. So Jen also has the absolute advantage there. She's more productive. So then the question right off the bat might be, well, if Jen's better at both, can they really benefit from working together? Let's see. Let's look at the comparative advantage. Let's see who gives up less. So Mary, the opportunity cost of 1 cookie is 3 brownies. And so, again, using the trick, the opportunity cost then of 1 brownie is 1/3 of a cookie. So again, the opportunity cost 1 cookie is 3 brownies, 1 brownie, 1/3 of a cookie. For Jen, the opportunity cost of 1 cookie is 1 brownie, and vice versa. So now if we look at this, if we look at cost, we find that Jen has the comparative advantage in making cookies because she only gives up 1 brownie versus 3 for Mary. But for brownies now, Mary only has to give up 1/3 of a cookie while Jen has to give up a full one. So we have Mary with a comparative advantage there. So they get together and say, look, let's do this. Jen, you give up less to make a cookie. So you're better at making cookies. You do cookies compared to me. I'm better comparatively at making brownies, so I'll make the brownies. So Mary's going to focus in on making brownies, so she's only going to make the brownies. She's going to make 15 brownies, no cookies. She's going to specialize there. Jen is going to specialize in making the cookies, because again, that's what she has the comparative advantage in. So she's going to make only cookies. She's going to make 20 cookies, no brownies. Look down here, it looks like that. So again, Mary's making no cookies, 15 brownies. Jen's making 20 cookies, no brownies. And so in total, they have 20 cookies now and 15 brownies. Now, if you look back here, they're reversed here. but they had 14 cookies in total before any kind of specialization and 13 brownies. So right off the bat, you can see that by specializing, even though Jen had that comparative advantage, right, they're making more. How much more? So if you take the turn total, take out what they were doing before, you can find that they are getting 6 additional cookies and 2 additional brownies. Right? So there's a benefit there. So they come together, let's just say they put everything on the table, all the cookies and all the brownies. To make sure that they're both equally as well off, they both take out their initial allotments. So out of that 20 and 15, all right, Mary's going to take her 4 cookies and 3 brownies, and Jen's going to take her 10 and 10. Now, once you take that out, those 14 total cookies and 13 total brownies, you have that benefit that's left over. So let's assume that they decide to just split it evenly. And so they, out of the 6 cookies that are left over, they each take out 3. And out of the 2 brownies, they each take 1 out. And so in total then, after coming together, after specializing, and after trading with each other, Mary's looking down with 7 cookies and 4 brownies. Jen has 13 and 11. Well, let's look at that. So let's look at Mary first. So Mary has now 7 cookies and 4 brownies. Okay. So she has, let's say, 7 cookies, 4 brownies. So Mary is right about there. Jen has 13 cookies and 11 brownies. And so Jen is going to look right around here. So this is what we have now. So even though Jen had that absolute advantage, she was better at making cookies and brownies compared to Mary, by working together, they are both able to achieve these levels here. Now, if you recall back to the basic discussions about production possibility frontier, we said that any area outside of one's own production possibility frontier was unattainable. Yet by working together, we are attaining it. Right? We're getting to that point. This here explains the basic idea of why people don't do everything. Why you don't do your own taxes and grow your own food and cook your own food and do your own yard work and do your own medical procedures and make your own coffee and all that. So what we have in an economy is we have people who are limited by their own production possibility frontiers. Right? They can only do so much. But what they do is people tend to specialize at what they are, comparatively speaking, better at than others. That's why you have accountants be accountants. That's why you have massage therapists doing that. That's why you have professional athletes doing that. So we get a specialization of work throughout the economy. And by doing that, we get people that pay us for the work we do, and then we pay others to do it for theirs. And in the end, people end up being outside of their production possibilities frontiers. So, for example, if you can imagine what would happen if you tried to do all this yourself, if you tried to build your own house, grow your own food, do your own medical procedures, it would take forever because you'd have to learn how to do it all. You'd have to become efficient at doing it all. If instead you let people specialize in doing those things and you work on what you're doing best, it allows everybody to do more and achieve these levels outside. Now, so we showed how specialization in trade benefits everybody. If we look at this graph here, this breaks down kind of that whole process of people, how people work together and they specialize in trading with each other. So what we have here is we have 2 groups. We have households and we have firms. And we have 2 markets. We have the goods market, which is where goods and services get exchanged. And we have the factor market, which is where those factors of productions that were discussed come to exchange. those factors with each other. So in the goods market, you have households going there to buy goods and services, to buy their food, their construction needs, to buy their electronics, and so forth. Those goods are produced and brought into there by the firms. So the firms bring the goods and services into the goods market, and they go to the households. In exchange, the households take money into the goods market, and that money goes via expenditure on these goods and services to the firms. Now, how these households get their money, and we talked about this a little bit when we talked about the factors of production. They bring that in order for the firms to make these goods, they need the labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. Now, it's important to note that firms are just non-person beings. All right, they're just an entity. To need it, to get those products, goods, and services out there, they need that labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship, which is owned by the households. So they take it into the factor market to give to the firms in exchange for those wages, the rent, the interest, and the profit, which goes back to the households. So this light blue line here is going in a circle in an opposite direction of the red one. And so this is how people come together and to specialize and trade. People go into the goods market to get those goods and services with the money they get from their specialization and what they receive for it via labor, land, capital, and entrepreneurship. And this is really what allows the economy to run and the economy to be effective. And it also shows why this specialization, this trade, it becomes necessary. It allows us in the economy to do more and each person to get more than they would had they otherwise been doing things on their own.